Hey guys, so today I'm going to do a review on my Pathfinder spearpoint. I know a lot of you know that Michael Pryor made me a copy of the Pathfinder spearpoint, but this review is going to be on the original. It was their design, so I want to do the review on their product. This is it right here. It's in a sheath right here, nice little sheath, leather. It's got the Pathfinder logo on that side, Blind Horse Knives logo on this side, made from 01 tool steel. It's 1/8 of an inch thick. At its widest point, it's approximately 1.5 inches, and it's about 5.5 inches long. One cool thing about this spearpoint is if you have the original PLSK1 sheath, which I don't particularly care for, to be honest with you. But anyway, if you have it, one kind of cool thing is you can take this spear point and you can, it was designed to be able to fit inside of here. And my sheath originally came with a Chicago screw that went through here, and it lines up with one of the holes on the spear point, and you could attach it there and still have room in your belt, and so that's how you could carry it. I lost my Chicago screw already, maybe when I went to class or something, I'm not really sure. I just kind of looked down one day and it was gone, but anyway, that's how you could carry that. You have to take your belt off. You have to take the sheath off your belt in order to access the spear point, but it's not something that you'd get to on a regular basis anyway. Primarily what I'm going to try and do with mine is maybe make a chaga spear, something to harvest chaga with. I know we've been talking about that on Wolf Customs Facebook page. Another thing you could use, I believe, a longer spear like what I'm going to make. I'm going to make one that's going to be pretty long. I think that you, in a situation, if you absolutely had to, I think you could harvest a deer with one. If I was up in the tree, I've been able to get pretty close to deer before. I'm sure a lot of people have. It's just, if you're really quiet and if you don't stink too bad, sometimes you can get a young one that'll get real close to you. And this spear would have no problem. This spear point, I don't think would have any problem taking down a deer if you hit it in the right spot. In those southern states, or states where hog hunting is legal, or where you have the hogs, you can spear them. I think this would work pretty good for that purpose. So I'm going to use a poplar tree. If I was really going to do this out in the woods, if I really needed to depend on a spear, I'd make it out of a birch tree. But I don't want to cut down a birch tree just for a demonstration or a review, or even for chaga hunting. Just these poplar trees grow like weeds, and I'm not worried about cutting one down. I would not use that spear point for like a frog gig or anything like that. Anything basically above rabbit size, I think would be pretty good for that spear point. If I was going to go frog gigging, this is what I use. This is a birch. I did sacrifice a birch to make this. I plan on having this for a while. This works pretty good for me. So it's it's lightweight spear or gig, and it's got a nice forked end. And it's a little bit taller than I am, so I would imagine it's about 6 foot tall, something like that. I don't know if you can see that. But this is a good gig. I would not use the spear point for this purpose, but for spearing a large animal or even a medium-sized animal, I think it would work pretty good. So I've cut down this poplar tree already. I'm going to take my Pathfinder hawk here, and process this down. One other note I think I should make is that you may or may not think that this spear point is practical. I know we've been kind of talking about that on the Facebook page, and that's totally fine. I'm not 100% sure it's practical myself. It doesn't weigh that much, and I would rather I'll carry a lot on me just to have tools and knives and stuff. That's just kind of the guy I am. I like knives a lot. Sometimes I buy them and never use them. Just like the spearpoint, I've never used it. I have a lot of early cold steel, high carbon steel knives, carbon 5, that I've never used. I just buy them and wrap them in plastic and oil, and I've had them for years. It's just something I collect, something I like to have. It's just what I do. So whether it's practical or not, I don't really know, but I'm going to give it a whirl and see what we can do with it. Just going to do a real rough cut here. I just want to get some of these branches off of here. I'm going to keep it as long as I absolutely can and still keep the strength. That's one thing where the birch would have worked a lot better than this poplar, because birch is a lot stronger. It's a lot stronger wood. That's pretty flexible stuff right there. I'm not sure this is going to work, but we'll give it a try. So, I'm going to cut it down. I want to see what the last usable space is on this tree. We're going to kind of line up the width of this and see where the two holes would still, these two lashing holes here are what I'm primarily concerned with. I want to see if those are still going to be usable. This is pretty close to the end of the usable spot on this tree. I think I'm going to go all the way up to right there. Right to where it starts to bend. I always like to start long on a project like this, and if it doesn't work out, I can just cut it shorter. You can never make it longer, obviously. So I'm going to cut some of these little parts of the branches off, clean up the bark a little bit. And down here where it starts to get super heavy, I'm going to try to take my hawk and my Pathfinder knife and stuff and try to make it a little more uniform diameter and go from there. I don't know if you can see this. It's probably pretty tough to see, but this thing's over 10 feet long. Well, I guess I have a tape measure. I can measure it real quick. But that's really going to help me get to my little pieces of chaga. 11 feet long. So And this poplar is light enough to where once I trim it down, you should be able to strike with it fairly quickly. I could see being in a tree as long as you were all held on pretty good and stuff and being able to get something with that. I'm going to process down a little bit further and I'll get back with you. Okay, well I'm getting this handle pretty much narrowed down to the diameter that I want it. I took all that bark off, and that bark, surprisingly, once I got all that off, it really made it just about the right diameter for me to hold. I could stand to take a little more stock off of this area right here. But for the most part, it's just about there for this end. For this end, when I took the bark off, it made it pretty small in diameter. So I don't think I'm going to be able to have as long a spear as I thought I was going to. So I'm going to recheck the diameter of this, and now I've never done this before, so I think I'm just going to, got several knots right here, I don't know if you can see them. I'm going to cut it right there, and then I'm just going to cut a little notch out of it and see what it looks like when I put it on there. Maybe that's a good spot for it. If that doesn't work, then I'm pretty confident right above this knot right there is going to work. So I'm just going to cut that little section off real quick. It really lightened it up once I got rid of all that bark. It's real wet, kind of slimy on the inside. It's starting to dry out a little bit though. So looks like it's working out pretty good. I have to move some of this stuff off my workbench. Trying to get it perfect right in the center. I might have messed it up a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. With it being this wet, it's really clogging up my saw. Plus, it's just hard for a saw to go that way. More of a rip as opposed to a cross cut. Looks like I got a ways to go yet. And it's going to take some trimming out of the center to get that to fit. So there's the notch the saw made. There's the diameter of my spearhead. So you can see I need to remove some more stock. I could probably split it, just force it in there, but I don't want to take the chance of splitting this piece. I'm just going to remove some of the stock and see what happens. I'll just do a little bit at a time with the knife. I can almost get it in there. It's not going to take much. So, cut a little more with the saw. Maybe I'll just try to clean up the center part with these saw teeth. That actually did a pretty good job. So you can see it's starting to go in. I need to do some more work on the bottom part of this notch, and then I think it's going to fit okay. It'll be good for chaga hunting anyway. Like I said, I've never made a spear like this before. It probably would be better if I had a little bit more wood down here, but I'm going to try it up here. Trial and error. Just going to try it, see what happens. I want as much length on this one as I can possibly get. So I'm going to do a little trimming and I'll be back. Okay, so I made the notch. pretty good, I think. And then actually the diameter I think is going to work out pretty good. I am no lashing expert, but I'm just cut off a section of this larger bank line, and I'm just going to keep wrapping it and tightening it and be super careful because it kind of wanted to wobble at first. So, you know, it's a double-edged dagger blade here, so you just want to be kind of careful. I don't want to end up with another bad cut. So I'm just going to go gently around. And pull it pretty tight. I'll tell you what, these mosquitoes and deer flies are enough to really make a person upset. Wow. I wonder what happened there. I wonder if that was a bad piece right there. I've been able to pull on this pretty tight. Maybe the edge was so sharp that it cut it, because I was pretty sure I was fairly far away from the blade. So, what am I going to do about that? It's either start over or splice onto it. I'm not sure I want to splice onto it. I want to try to keep my lashings as small as possible. It's going to make too big of a knot if I do that knot. Well, we'll start over, I guess. That's kind of a bummer. I'm not sure if this piece of bank line is going to be long enough or not. It's kind of an unexpected bummer. If I have that problem again, I might just take a sander or something and sand down the edges, because I want this pretty tight. See, this is what I was talking about, where the very initial spot here wobbles. I'll be real careful here. Not quite pulling quite as tight as I was. Now I'm sure when this dries it's going to shrink and I would need to do this again. I'm going to go through these little holes they made in it for me. I guess that's one thing they could have done, was make the edges a bit smoother so that it wouldn't cut like that. Also the inside of these holes, these lashing holes, I could see it'd be kind of nice if they weren't quite so sharp. You can hear it kind of rubbing on this bank line. Maybe it wouldn't matter so much paracord, but still would be nicer if they were a little rounded. So I'm just going to keep doing this, just kind of making it up as I go, and I'll get back to you.